You guys gotta hear this. I'm reading this book with Lee in Virginia. Okay? You see it? You gotta hear this. You gotta hear this. Bear with me, okay? It says, the Confederates evacuated Charleston at the approach of the enemy. Oh, wait. Hang on. Lee, seeing the imminence of the danger, made an attack upon the enemy front of Petersburg, but was repulsed. He had about 37,000 men, which he opposed the enemy of nearly 10,000 strong, threatening his flank. And Sherman, with his army, was but a few days' march distant. There was fierce fighting on the 29th, 30th, and 31st of March. On the 2nd of April, the whole Federal army assaulted the position at Petersburg. After this desperate fighting succeeded in carrying them, the Confederate troops, outnumbered and exhausted, they were by previous weeks marching and fighting, yet retained their discipline, and Lee drew off with 20,000 men and marched to endeavor to effect junction with Johnson, who was facing Sherman. But his men, who had the day's provision with them, the stores that he had ordered to await them to point at which their direction marched, not arrived. They reached it and harassed every foot of the march by Sheridan's cavalry, Ord's infantry, and force fought its way on. The horses, the mules, were so weak from want of food they were unable to drag the guns that the men dropped in numbers of fatigue and famine. Sheridan Ord cut out two corps. Generally, with but 8,000 infantry and 20,000 cavalry, still pressed forward towards Lynchburg. But Sheridan threw himself in the way, finding that no more could be done. Generally, an infantry surrounded, and in a few days be done. Generally, an infantry fought in a long dispute struggle to the war's end. But dreadfully Richmond, when the news came that the lines where Petersburg were forced, the General Lee stood between the city and the invaders. The president this gets better and better. It says, President's ministers left at once. They were followed by the better class of inhabitants, who found means of conveyance. The Negroes, Irish, and some of the lower class ones worked to pillage and burn the whole city, have been destroyed. Not all the Federal arrived at once supporting the rioting. Whenever it had been conducted, the Federal troops for the last year of the war, however, significantly inflicted upon the unarmed and innocent population of the country through which they marched, and the peace of the General Grant agreed upon, which were, although some of the reluctance, ratified the government in the highest degree, and the generous, no one was to be injured or molested for a share had taken the war. General amnesty was granted for all the states that previously commenced to the struggle. More liberal terms were never granted by the conqueror to the vanquished. Vincent, which the cavalry escaped prior to Lee's disbanded and returned home. He received with the deepest joined by his sister. Thank God, my dear, it's all over. You have been preserved to us, which we were beaten, but no one can say that we have been disagreed at his state and done in Virginia. So we have been overpowered. It has been terrible 4 years. The few families, indeed, that have losses to mount. There you go. Yo, Negroes. were burning the goddamn South for the federal goddamn government. You goddamn Negroes were always with them, sons of bitches. You were never goddamn with us. Take your black mints and just get the fuck on out. You ain't Confederate, you goddamn liars. We always knew you was.